I lost everything because I loved my son too much. That's what I thought for years. I signed that guarantee paper without hesitation because that's what parents do, right? We protect our children. We help them succeed. But that single signature destroyed my retirement, my marriage, and nearly my faith. Let me tell you something that nobody warns you about. The moment you guarantee someone else's debt, even your own child's debt, you're not just signing a piece of paper. You're potentially signing away your future. And when that person is your family, the pain cuts deeper than any financial loss ever could. This isn't just my story. This is happening to thousands of families right now. Parents who thought they were helping are losing their homes. Siblings who co-signed loans aren't speaking anymore. Grandparents who guaranteed business loans are working into their 80s. The tragedy isn't just financial. It's relational. It's spiritual. It's generational. My son came to me 5 years ago with what seemed like an incredible opportunity. A business venture that couldn't fail. He needed a guarantee for a $200,000 loan. The bank wouldn't approve it otherwise. He had the business plan. He had the passion. He just needed my signature. I remember sitting at that kitchen table, pen in hand, looking at my wife. She had doubts. I could see it in her eyes. But I pushed them aside. This was our son. Our firstborn. How could we not believe in him? How could we not support his dreams? The business failed within 18 months. Not because my son didn't work hard. He did, not because the idea was bad. It wasn't. Sometimes businesses just fail. That's the reality of entrepreneurship. But when they fail, someone has to pay. And that someone was me. The calls started coming 6 months after the business closed. The bank wanted their money. They didn't care about the circumstances. They didn't care about our relationship. They had a guarantee with my signature on it. That made me legally responsible for every single penny. $200,000. Plus interest. Plus legal fees. The number kept growing. My retirement account that took 30 years to build? Gone in 6 months. The house we'd lived in for 25 years? We had to take out a second mortgage. My wife had to go back to work at 62 years old. But here's what broke me more than the money. My son couldn't look me in the eye anymore. Family dinners became awkward silences. Holidays felt like obligations instead of celebrations. The debt didn't just take my savings. It took my relationship with my child. I was angry. Angry at my son for failing. Angry at myself for signing. Angry at God for letting this happen. I'd been a faithful man my whole life. I'd prayed before making that decision. Where was God when everything fell apart? That's when I hit rock bottom. Not financially, although that was bad enough. Spiritually. I stopped going to church. Stopped praying. Stopped believing that any of this had meaning. If God loved me, why would He let me suffer like this? Why would He let my family fall apart? My pastor called me one Tuesday morning. I hadn't been to church in 3 months. He didn't lecture me. He didn't quote scripture at me. He just asked if we could meet for coffee. I almost said no. But something made me agree. We sat in that coffee shop for 3 hours. I told him everything. The debt. The anger. The broken relationship with my son. The resentment toward my wife for being right. The shame of losing everything it worked for. And the emptiness of feeling abandoned by God. He listened to it all. Then he said something he'll never forget. He said, "Love isn't enabling. Love sometimes means setting boundaries, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. God doesn't ask us to destroy ourselves to help others. He asks us to love wisely. That conversation changed everything. Not immediately. Change never happens that fast. But it planted a seed. The idea that maybe, just maybe, I could love my son and still protect myself. That maybe faith didn't mean being a doormat. That maybe God was present in my pain, not absent from it. I started reading about financial boundaries in families. The statistics shocked me. 75% of people who cosign loans end up paying them. 38% of those people report damaged relationships with the person they helped. These aren't just numbers. These are broken families. Destroyed retirements. Lost homes. I learned that financial advisors universally recommend against guaranteeing loans for family members. Not because they're heartless. Because they've seen what happens. They've watched families implode. They've seen parents lose everything. They've witnessed the guilt and shame and anger that comes with financial entanglement. But nobody talks about this in church. We talk about generosity. We talk about helping others. We talk about sacrifice. All good things. But we don't talk about wisdom. We don't talk about stewardship. We don't talk about the difference between helping and enabling. I had to learn to forgive myself first. That was the hardest part. I kept replaying that moment at the kitchen table. Wondering what would have happened if I'd said no. Wondering if my son would have found another way. Wondering if our relationship would have been better or worse. My pastor helped me understand something crucial. My mistake wasn't loving my son. My mistake was thinking that love required me to say yes to everything. Real love sometimes says no. Real love sometimes lets people face consequences. Real love sometimes means watching someone struggle instead of rescuing them. Then came the harder part. Forgiving my son. He hadn't set out to destroy my finances. He hadn't planned to fail. He was young and optimistic and believed in his dream. The business failed, but he wasn't a failure. I had to separate those two things in my mind. We had a conversation. A real one. The first honest conversation we'd had in 2 years. I told him I forgave him. I told him I loved him. But I also told him something else. I told him I would never guarantee another loan. Not for him. Not for anyone. Not because I didn't love him, but because I did. He cried. I cried. It wasn't a happy ending wrapped up in a bow. It was messy and painful and real. But it was honest. And honesty was what our relationship needed. My faith journey through this taught me something profound. God doesn't promise to protect us from consequences. He promises to be with us through them. I'd been angry at God for not preventing my suffering. But God never promised that. He promised presence, not prevention. I found comfort in unexpected places. The story of the prodigal son took on new meaning. The father in that story didn't bail out his son. He let him hit rock bottom. He let him face the consequences of his choices. But he never stopped loving him. And he was ready to welcome him home. That's what I had to learn to do. Let my son face his consequences. Not with anger or resentment, but with love and boundaries. The debt was mine to pay legally, but the lesson was his to learn. And my lesson was learning to set boundaries without guilt. The financial recovery took years. We're still not where we were. We probably never will be. He'll be working longer than I planned. My retirement will be smaller than I hoped. But I've gained something more valuable than money. I've gained wisdom. I've gained a healthier relationship with my son. I've gained a deeper faith. I've also gained a mission. I talk to other parents now. Parents who are considering guaranteeing loans. Parents who are struggling with similar situations. I tell them my story. Not to shame them. Not to tell them what to do. But to help them understand the real cost. The real cost isn't just financial. It's emotional. It's relational. It's spiritual. When you guarantee someone's debt, you're taking on more than a legal obligation. You're taking on stress. You're taking on potential resentment. You're taking on a burden that can crush relationships. I wish someone had told me this before I signed that paper. I wish someone had said it's okay to say no. It's okay to love your child and still protect yourself. It's okay to let them find another way. It's okay to set boundaries. Faith doesn't mean being foolish with money. Stewardship matters. God gave us resources to manage wisely. That includes protecting those resources, even from people we love. Especially from people we love, because enabling them doesn't help them grow. My relationship with my son today is better than it was before the debt. Not because of the debt, but because we learned to communicate honestly. We learned to set boundaries. We learned that love doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. If you're facing a similar decision right now, please hear this. Think carefully. Pray deeply. Consult with people who have experience. Understand the statistics. Understand the risks. And understand that saying no doesn't make you a bad parent or a bad person. If you're already in this situation, dealing with the aftermath, know this. You're not alone. Thousands of families are going through this. It's not the end of your story. It's not the end of your faith. God is present in your pain, even when it doesn't feel like it. The journey of rebuilding, both financially and relationally, is long. It requires patience. It requires forgiveness, both of yourself and others. It requires faith that God can bring good from even our worst mistakes. And it requires the courage to set boundaries going forward. I've learned that faith and wisdom aren't opposites. They're partners. Faith trusts God. Wisdom makes good decisions. You can have both. You should have both. God gave us brains to think and hearts to love. We need to use both. My story isn't unique. But it's real. And if sharing it helps even one person make a different choice, or helps one person find hope in their situation, then maybe all of this had a purpose. Maybe my pain can prevent someone else's. Maybe my lesson can be someone else's wisdom. Faith helped me navigate this heartbreak by teaching me that love has boundaries. That wisdom matters. That consequences are real. That forgiveness is possible. That relationships can heal. That God is present in our pain. And that sometimes the most faithful thing we can do is say no, even when it breaks our heart to do it.